right on this. Headphone highlights. So we have gone through our dynamic driver headphones, gone through our planar magnetic headphones. What is left? Well, there's actually quite a bit left. Yes, we went through dynamic drivers. Yes, we went through planar drivers. But I haven't still gone through all of those that I own. But the other headphones that I own that fit into those categories are, I would consider them more specialized or special, unique headphones. So they got pushed aside for a future category that we will be doing next time once we're done with this category. And today's category is, as Inferno already pointed out, IEMs. IEMs stand for in-ear monitors. They're more commonly referred to as earbuds, which, you know, I'm fine with. I know some people get their neck hairs in a tuffle when someone says, "Oh, those are just earbuds." But I mean, whatever. So, in-ear monitors, IEMs. Monitor, again, just referring to the fact that there's devices that are in your ear with drivers producing sound. Just like how there's monitoring headphones or studio monitor speakers, in-ear monitors. They're monitors that go into your ear. They are a little bit, honestly, this is going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, to highlight because they're so small and there's just, it's a little bit more difficult to really talk about a lot of the details on these. But I'm going to do my best. So what we are wearing today are the TinHifi Audio T2s. Bring them up here as best I can to show them off. There you go. They have this really kind of simple, pretty aluminum chassis. Is it focusing okay? I think it is. Very simple. You know, just an aluminum chassis with some, in this case, foam tips. And they are connected. I do not know what model, type, or whatever of plugin this is called. I probably should have looked it up. But they have a removable cable. Okay, you can actually remove the cable from the driver if you needed to for any reason. Maybe you needed to swap out the cable. Again, we're a big fan of that because should your cable fail and that become the reason your headphones have to become trash, that's stupid. So thank you, TinHifi, for giving us something that has removable cable. I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the IEMs that I own have a system like this, a replaceable swapping cable. Oh, Inferno, that is the MMCX connector. Thank you. Yeah, I would not be able to figure it out on my own. IEMs are very interesting. So I probably don't seem as enthusiastic about this as maybe I do with some of the other headphones, and that's just because IEMs, while I'm very appreciative of what they can do and the capabilities that you can get out of IEMs, which is with such a small, teeny tiny little driver, is like unreal magic kind of stuff. Like, how in the hell does a little thing produce such amazing sound? But I'm still much more of a headphone guy, like on your head kind of headphone guy. So my knowledge on IEMs is significantly more limited. But thank goodness we have folks like Inferno here to help me get up to speed. Nonetheless, they're very cool. IEMs are really amazing engineering. And while a lot of them seem fairly similar to each other just by looking at them, like how can all these different little earbuds, little IEMs be made really vastly differently? You'd be really, really surprised what can go into building these dang things. Because, I mean, the speaker on this, that the driver is producing sound, is itty bitty teeny tiny itsy bitsy. Look at that. No, come on. There you go. That little itty bitty tip right there. That's where your sound comes out. Okay, it's a very impressive thing for any kind of sound at all to come out of something so small, let alone something that could actually produce genuinely pretty incredible sound. You don't know if you've seen them. IEMs with detachable cables, interesting. Yes. Yeah, it's a big deal. And I would say up until recently, I feel like that is something that was fairly uncommon for a in-ear monitor to have detachable cables. That was something that I feel was much more prevalent in more of the high-end kind of stuff. But in the last like 5-6 years or so, it's become a lot more mainstream. That's really cool. So I'm thinking about my method of how I talk about these things, because I can't really talk about them the same way I do with regular headphones. Because I mean, we'll talk about the build, but there's not a whole lot to really look at. We'll talk, and comfort's gonna be a weird one. I'm gonna have to maybe have a discussion with all of you about comfort before I consider actually rating the comfort, because that's going to be a thing on its own. But anyway, I'm starting to ramble. So yeah, these are the T2s. The TinHifi T2s. Okay. They have, oh my gosh. Obviously just a mess here today. They are very small, very simple. Aluminum chassis, as we examined. And the cables that they come with are actually really nice. This is something that is, interestingly enough, this is something that's fairly more common now with IEMs than has been in the past. But IEMs fairly frequently these days, when they're quality IEMs, come with really nice cables. And this is a really nice, very fine weaved cable. It's just very lovely looking. It almost has this kind of pearlescent look to it. It drapes really, really nice. It doesn't tangle, doesn't get all janky and wonky. And it has a really simple, clean, aesthetic termination to 3.5mm. Oop, there you go. Yeah, nice. Nice cable. Bonus that it is detachable. It's another bonus to it is this is gonna be very difficult to show on camera. I'll do my best. Where the cable connects to the drivers. See if you can see that. Come on. There you go. You got your red indicator and your blue indicator to indicate right and left channel. So that's really nice, especially when you're working with something so small. It's not the most common thing to have your L and R left and right channel indicator printed on IEMs. That's not super common. So being able to distinguish from color helps a lot. So these are, they're built super, super well. How could they not be? They're just blocks, little tiny blocks of aluminum. I could throw them across the room and they'll probably be fine. They're really robust. And they're very, very small and very, very light. These are very, very light. Like many IEMs today, when you buy them, you have an option for your for fitting them to your ears. Because obviously one of the biggest challenges that an IEM has is fitting to the ear of whoever bought it. When you have a over-ear headphone that's, a big honking huge 50mm or more driver, it's kind of going to fit the vast majority of people's ears. Well, the struggle with IEMs is it's something that has to go in your ear, and everyone has different ears of different sizes and different canals and whatever. So it's a challenge to be able to get it to fit properly. And what a lot of IEMs do to try to meet that challenge is they will offer you different tips to try and help you fit it. What I have on here right now are just these white foam tips. You could squeeze them almost like earplugs. And they're very slow moving, very smooth memory foam tips. Another thing you will commonly see is something like this, which is like a silicone tip. Just like a little rubber silicone doodad. Just pops on the end of the speaker there on the IM, and that'll just kind of cram into your ear. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both. And it's gonna, it's a very subjective thing. Depends on what you're in, what feels better for you, honestly. I think the general consensus is that the foamy memory foam nubs are more ideal if you just kind of want to have the best seal. Then that makes sense. What I mean by seal is that this has to go into your ear canal, right? And this is a tiny, tiny speaker, so for these to be tuned to produce the sound they intend them to produce, it needs to be sealed very isolated, and a very isolating seal, so that the sound is not leaking out of your ears. It wants to keep it all in your ears. So for the vast majority of IEMs, there are some exceptions. There are some open IEMs, but most IEMs, the intent is to cram them into your ear canal and seal that sound in there. So the foam nubs generally do a better job at that, because it really does, you pinch it and you squeeze it and it gets smaller, you cram it in there, you wait a second or two while it expands, and as it expands, it form fits to your ear canal. That causes a very good seal. Personally, I don't find it a very comfortable thing. And a lot of people, I think, don't. So that's also why they come with these silicone ones. The silicone nubs are probably a bit more comfortable for most people, because there's no, expansion of foam in your ear. Instead, you just have this rubber little pliable thing that, you just kind of cram in there, and it just kind of does the best that it can with whatever it does naturally. That generally doesn't provide as much of an audio seal, as much of an isolating seal for the sound, but it's also, for some people, more comfortable. It's also significantly easier to pop them in and out of your ears when you have the silicone nubs versus having the foam nubs. Because the foam nubs, you gotta, every time you want to put them back in there, you gotta squeeze them and mush them down, cram them in there, wait a few seconds for them to swell up, and then you're good to go. With the silicone ones, you just pop them in, you're done. So there's a convenience versus performance that you have to kind of deal with in general. It's not always the case. It's gonna depend. So that's generally how IAMs are kind of constructed. There are exceptions. I might have some of those exceptions. We'll see. I don't even remember what I have anymore. But yeah, easy stuff. So there's your build. Okay, there's not a whole lot to talk about. It's a block. It's got a little nub on it that goes in your ear, and it has a wire that connects it. I will mention that I'm not entirely sure exactly what TinHifi intends you to do in terms of how to fit these. What seems to work best for me, though, is literally wrapping the back of the cable back behind your ear and having it go over the top of your ear to fit in, like so. As opposed to letting it hang like that. Okay? A lot of more, I'm going to say cheaper, but I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Cheaper earbuds, you would just pop them in like that and let it hang off like that. But sometimes IEMs are built with the intention of going around your ear and fitting in that way. I feel like that's how these are intended to be built. I don't know for sure. So, okay. let's have a little chat about the comfort, because I'm not so sure. Um, I'm not really sure if we can do a cloud comfort system scaling of comfort for IEMs. Because here's the thing about IEMs. I genuinely feel that either you are the kind of person that can wear IEMs and be completely happy and completely comfortable with them, or you're the kind of person that generally just can't stand them. Full disclosure, I'm kind of in the latter. I really don't. 99.99999% of the time, I will much rather have over-ear headphones than I would IEMs. I just don't like the feel of having something in my ears. But that's me. Plenty of people are perfectly comfortable having things in their ears. If they didn't, then stuff like the Apple AirPods wouldn't be as popular as they are. But it's going to be it's just going to be almost a very black and white situation. There's very little gray area, I feel, when it comes to whether or not you are the kind of person that can handle the feel and comfort of IEMs. Of all the IEMs that I own and that I have tried, the only ones I unfortunately I don't even remember the name of them. They were a Bose IEM, so nothing super duper fancy. They weren't cheap, but they're the only IEMs I've ever owned that were genuinely comfortable. I used to wear them every day at work. They fit in my ear perfectly, and it was no issue. One IEM out of all the ones I own and have ever owned, one has ever felt genuinely comfortable for me. So, I don't know. I don't know if giving you a comfort scale is going to work here, because it's going to kind of more come down to whether or not I'm comfortable with the kind of nub, because the actual construction of the IEM chassis itself is going to affect the comfort not very significantly. Some chassis are definitely better form fit for an ear. This is probably not. This is a pretty simple design that's just very kind of oval, round, basic shape, not trying to form to anything. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I've discovered I have a weird right ear canal, and IEMs are not comfortable for me. I'll take over ear headphones any day, all of the week. I agree. And maybe that's what I might have something like that too. I often feel like my left ear gets more fatigued than my right ear. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Some of the really, really high end IEMs, you can actually get. It's pretty cool. I haven't done it myself, but there are IEMs that you can get where you like they send you like some wax, and you use that wax to form actual molds of your ear canals, and you send that mold back, and they will create the chassis of the IEM to perfectly fit your ears. I imagine that kind of thing is extremely comfortable, albeit extremely expensive. So I don't know. I just all I can tell you is that for me in general, they're not comfortable. Not that these specifically are uncomfortable, but that IEMs in general for me are not comfortable. So I might have to just kind of leave it at that. If I do wear an IEM over the week and I'm like, wow, okay, this one is extra comfortable, or wow, this one is extra painful, I will mention that. But I don't think we're going to do a cloud system for this, unfortunately. Just because you're either going to be okay with it, or you're going to be like me and just really can't stand it. But that's okay, because the one thing I can definitely talk about is sound. And IEMs, these teeny tiny little freaking things, are still capable of some really incredible sound, which is great, because that I wouldn't own IEMs if they didn't, because why would I wear something I didn't like wearing unless it produced really good sound? So these tin T2s are pretty dirt cheap. I believe they're like $30. double check that really quick. They're very, very affordable IEMs. TinHifi T2. Oh wow, okay. So they've gone up in price. These have become very popular IEMs. Oh, it's getting late for you? Okay. Thanks for stopping by, Shadow Wolf. Appreciate you. Sorry we didn't give you more Mass Effect time, but maybe next time we'll give you some more Mass Effect time. But thanks for hanging out with us, man. Appreciate you. When these came out, they were like 20, 30 bucks. But they very quickly became very popular, and for a good reason. And since then, they have gone up in price. Now they're about 50 bucks. They're 50 bucks right now on Amazon with a $4 coupon. So there's that. Still very much worth it, though. It's kind of silly of me to bring these out as the first IEM to highlight, because quite honestly, I pretty much feel that these are the only IEMs you ever really need to own. Obviously, I own more than these. Maybe it's because I'm a crazy person, I don't know. But their sound quality is phenomenal for the price. I mean, extremely difficult to beat. And you could spend a lot of money on IEMs. They are genuinely, IEMs are not really any cheaper than high-end headphones. They can climb up there real quick. So a super high performing $50 IEM is pretty killer. So they are very relaxed, very warm sound signature. So they're meant to be pleasing, and they absolutely are very, very pleasing. They're a bit mid-range focus with a little emphasis in the low end, so it's pretty thwompy where you want it to be, without it bleeding and bloating too much. And the high ends are pretty well controlled. I mean, they're probably a little recessed in the high end, that just to make sure things aren't sharp and pinching and approaching sibilance of any kind. So high ends are well controlled, mid-range focused with good punchy low end. They're not neutral. Like I said, they're more warm than anything else, but they're not like super dark. And they're not crazy thwompy dubstep bass cannons either. They're very pleasant. They're relaxing sounding headphones. And an interesting trick that they do, you wouldn't expect this from really any IEM, because anything that is a teeny tiny driver that's crammed into your ear, you absolutely would not expect to have soundstage. But these kind of pull it off. It's not tremendous, but it's definitely more than just having little speakers beaming directly into your ears. It's more of a, head spacious sounding soundstage. It's very nice. A lot of IEMs have a tendency to be very kind of forward, right in your face, or just directly left and right channel and nothing else. So it's great that with this you get some sense of space. So that's really cool. Maybe instead of a cloud comfort scale, we can make a shoe comfort scale. Like 10 is a custom fit running shoe, and a 1 is someone else's rented dress shoes. Wow. I like it. I like where you're coming from. IEM's a soundstage. Surprising. Yeah, I think it's pretty surprising. I appreciate that your shoe scale. I think that's a pretty cool idea. My only problem with having any kind of comfort scale is that there's not really much of a scale to be had. It's kind of what I was getting at. Either you're okay with how they feel in your ears, or you're not. There's not really a scale in between. But yeah, so these actually sound really killer. They sound really good. They're really easy to drive. Almost all IEMs are incredibly easy to drive. You don't need an amplifier for IEMs. You can power them off your phone. That's kind of their intent. Not to say that you can't power them on an amplifier. I'm currently powering these on the lowest gain of my THX AAA 789. So it's a nice linear, clean amplifier powering these nice little in-ear headphones. It's great sound. You know what? These probably, if I were to compare them to any of our actual headphones, I would say these probably are the Ship 95, the Philips Ship 9500 equivalent for IEMs. They're just very pleasant, very good sounding, and affordable little entry-level IEMs that I would recommend to pretty much anyone. If you want to have some really nice sounding in-ear monitors, I genuinely would say this is the place to start, because these sound great. And for most people, I feel they're going to sound great. They're not analytical, they're not fatiguing, they're not super precise or super detailed. But for what they can do for the price that they're at, it's very, very hard to beat. Genuinely, the Ship 9500s of IEMs. A very similar sound signature, in fact, to the Ship 9500s. Just maybe not quite as much soundstage, obviously. But still, I think $50 IEM is going to sound better than a typical $50 headphone. You know what? That's a good point. That's a good point, Inferno. Let's see, $50. Looks like an equivalent headphone I have for about $50. I mean, the Ship 9500s, right? They're a little bit more expensive now. I think they're more like $70 now, 70, $80. But when I got my Ship 9500s, they were like $40 or $50. So, again, a perfect comparison. The Ship 9500s are a killer value headphone for their price. And these are a killer value IEM for their price. So, good stuff. I really like them. I genuinely do. I genuinely love IEMs. The way that the kind of sound that they can produce can be amazing. And these are amazing. I just wish I could be comfortable to wear them for longer than I typically can. We've only been streaming for, well, actually, we're up like an hour and 40 minutes now. But I've only been wearing them for about an hour now. Hour and 15 minutes or whatever. And my ears are already pretty fatigued. And again, that's just me. That doesn't mean that they're uncomfortable headphones. They're just uncomfortable for me. But yeah. TinHifi T2s. They're really great. Yo, N7, what's up? Thanks for joining us again. The the Tin T2 N7s. That would be dope as hell. Hi-Fi, oh my god, I'm all mixed up tonight. Wow. The TinHifi T2s. They're great IEMs. You want to get into IEMs. That's my recommendation. And I hope that they're more comfortable for you than they are for me. There you go. So I don't have nearly as many IEMs as I do headphones, so we don't have a whole lot to go through, but I do have a pretty decent collection here. So it's going to be a couple weeks of IEMs, and before we move on to something else. So there's that. Good stuff. Go back to the game.